So I think the benefits overall have been that, it's more efficient for teachers. It provides that extra time. And as I mentioned before, it eases up some of the stress of the admin so that teachers and SLSOs have more time to work individually with students and be present and do all of those things that we love doing in the classroom is teaching and learning.
Yeah. Welcome to Trailblazing Schools, the podcast for educational leaders at the intersection of leadership, complexity, and intelligent technology. I'm Trudy Graham. This is a space for leaders navigating uncharted territory. We explore strategic leadership, ethical innovation, and how AI can strengthen the deeply human work of education. Welcome to the Trailblazing Schools podcast. Caroline White, fantastic to have you join me today. Caroline is the relieving principal at Sir Eric Woodward School in Sydney. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Trudy. I'm so excited to be joining you today. It's really good.
I'm looking forward to this conversation. It's been a while since we've caught up, so I'm looking forward to hearing about what's unfolded at your school. Yeah, well, let's start in the usual way. I asked if you prompt your favourite AI to do a bio, and I understand you have that, and you can share it with us.
Yes, I sure do. It's fairly spot on. So it starts off as the relieving principal at Sir Eric Woodward School and SSP School in St Ives, I am passionate about making a meaningful difference in the lives of 76 students with complex needs, both face-to-face and through distance education. Beginning my career as a visual arts teacher, I discovered a deep commitment to supporting students with diverse learning needs, which inspired me to complete a Master's in Special Education. I enjoy fostering student voice, independence, and lifelong learning. Outside school, I'm an avid painter and photographer who loves exploring art galleries, hiking mountains, and soaking in the beauty of nature and the beach.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty spot on. I would definitely add that I do have a keen interest in new technologies and always have had. When I was at art school at the College of Fine Arts, I majored in photo media and digital imaging. So it's something that I've always been interested in.
Wow, that is fascinating, Caroline. So, and we're going to have a conversation. Of course, AI will come into the mix, but I'd be interested to hear some of your perspectives on AI-generated images and artwork. I'm sure you've got a lot to say on that.
Yes, very interesting topic. And also in the field of inclusive education, it's a very exciting space.
Wow.
Very excited.
Lovely. So what about the second part as a guest on Trailblazing Schools and around the idea of leading into uncharted territory? What does your AI say is your core message?
Well, it says, leading into uncharted territory requires courage, compassion, and a commitment to listen deeply, especially to those whose voices are often unheard. Trailblazing isn't just an innovation, it's about understanding the unique needs of individuals, empowering them to find their own path to independence and success. By embracing uncertainty with empathy and creativity, we can create inclusive spaces where every student's potential is recognised and nurtured. True leadership is about lighting the way for others, adapting with resilience, and remaining deeply connected to the purpose of making a real positive difference in lives.
How does that feel for you?
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I think, everyone in our particular field of special education and inclusive education, we are all here to make a positive difference in the lives of students with complex needs. And also it is about, empowering our staff and our students and our families and inspiring them and coaching, and also making those connections is so important for us at our setting. So it's quite spot on.
I'm curious as you read that too, and there's so many parallels between your bio and then the message, like they're so unified in what you stand for. I'm curious for you, does leadership at the moment feel like leading in uncharted territory?
In some ways, yes. Yes, it does. I think, there's lots of things that we need to kind of balance and look at. And there's new things that are always coming up. So it is in a way, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So share with me and everyone listening how you describe your current leadership context, Caroline.
Well, so I mentioned before, we have face-to-face classes and distance ed. So we're quite a unique setting. So we offer distance education programs to students all around New South Wales with a moderate to severe intellectual disability. We have these wonderful cluster excursions where our staff will go out to regional areas so that we can go and engage with students, and so that students can have that sense of belonging and meet some of their classmates in person. And we've had some wonderful feedback from a lot of our parents to just say how valuable those excursions are, because often a lot of our families are geographically isolated. So coming to meet together and meet other families in similar situations is just very, very valuable, and it's wonderful. So a lot of the context is really engaging with the community and building those connections, and also asking, a lot of our community, especially our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community, what they want to have at the school for Aboriginal education, or what they want to be involved in for NAIDOC week. So it's definitely about, asking the community how they want to be involved in the learning as well. So we've got our 6 face-to-face classes as well, which is fantastic. We have 4 K-6 classes and then 2 7-12 classes. So a lot of the students are working on life skills and preparing to transition onto post-school options. And we encourage families and support families to make those transitions early, and it might involve getting the parents to know some of the disability service providers in their local areas, and students can start to go and visit them, whether it's one day a week and working up to when they finish school. So it's a very supportive environment. Especially around our school plan has a big focus on student communication and alternative and assistive communication for our students. A lot of our students have speech delays, or they may be nonverbal. So we have a total communication approach where we focus on access to different forms of communication modes, such as keyword sign, which is a variation of Auslan. We have high-tech devices and speech output devices that students can use. We have visuals, and we have low-tech devices that students can also connect with. But the most important thing is that there's access to it. Students can have a voice and be independent and work on their everyday skills that they need to participate in learning and have a response and interact with the learning, which is so important for us.
It's fascinating, and it sounds so complex. So I'd love to hear what aspects of leading your school feels complex or demanding, and what have you noticed is the greatest cognitive load in the work?
Well, I'd have to say, my substantive role is deputy principal, and I've been relieving principal for nearly 2 years now. But I would have to say, as a new principal, I've learned to understand that the roles of the principal are very, very complex, and there's multiple things that you need to cover as a principal. So whether it's, being an accountant or a counselor or a creative designer or looking after assets or a budget planner or workplace health and safety manager, there's lots of different complexities that you need to be able to be part of, and most importantly, as an instructional leader as well. So I think it's all about, the challenge is managing your time. And really, I've reflected a lot on this recently, and I found that it's looking at your priorities and what your priorities are. And especially in terms of, with the prospect of now we have AI to help us to manage some of those administrative tasks that often can get in the way and take up a lot of our time, and add to our complexities. If we're using that to cut back on some of those stressful things, it gives us more time as a principal to be more present, be visible, go into classes, do some reading groups, join in a sport activity, or my favourite is joining the art therapist in their art activities as well. So I think that's really been an eye-opener for me. Recently, I went to the EduTech conference at the International Convention Centre in Sydney, and a lot of the guest speakers were all talking about the benefits of AI in education. And it was really interesting. One of them was showing that the research showed that the biggest stress for teachers is admin. So it really made me reflect on that and think, gosh, if we can reduce some of those high stress things like admin through using AI, then it's going to open up so much more time for all the human things like teaching and personable things and interpersonal skills. So I think that's, just been a real eye-opener for me.
Yeah.
Especially as a principal.
Caroline, as you described your experience, you just beautifully articulated the job. And every school principal listening in goes, yep, you nailed it. all of those hats that you wear, right? And in some ways, that's what I loved about the role, is that variety and all the different, cognitive demands. And they were different. 1 minute you are calling on your creative side because you're designing something, or, events, promotional materials, all sorts of things, through to then the very logical side of the role where, you've got to get numbers to work and staffing in the right places and balancing budgets. And then the human aspect, as you so beautifully articulated, that the care and the support and the growing, the big people and the little people. I think you nailed it. And everyone listening in is going, yep, she described it so well. And so with that, I'm curious around, and this I am really curious in terms of your experience as you've moved from deputy into the principal role, and over the 2 years, have you noticed that you've changed in the way you lead, in being responsive to the pressures and the demands?
I think definitely, yes. In my leadership, it's definitely been about a balance, and having that balance between, your instructional leadership and your professional learning and your distributed leadership, and being there, as a coach. I find that one of my strengths is in coaching, and using those kind of skills, as my kind of focus in leadership, and bringing them up as one of my highlights. And I think, yes, just developing strategies to make sure that I can track my time and make sure that I'm scheduling in all the priorities and the most important things, And all of those, yes, admin things are essential. We have to do them. But if there's easier and quicker ways to help with that through AI, I think it's just a game changer. It's such a bonus to have that, to focus on all of those things that you just want to be present with as a principal in a school.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I've definitely kind of changed my leadership style over the time.
Across this podcast, you'll hear leaders navigating complexity with courage and clarity. If you'd like to see how that looks in practice, visit trailblazingschools.com/field notes. These field notes capture real stories from school leaders using AI as a thinking partner, strengthening leadership, not replacing it. It's free, practical, and designed to prompt your own next step. You'll find it at trailblazingschools.com/field notes. And in regard to using AI, can you share an example of how, that's come into play in your role and in your work?
Yes, there's quite a few. So as you know, Trudy, in the beginning, I really was chatting to a colleague in another SSP school, and she was telling me about this AI in SSP's group, and of course she mentioned yourself and that you were, starting to get together some professional learning, and I spoke to my other partnership SSP schools, so a team of 3 schools. And I spoke to the principals and said, look, this would be a really great way to get, firstly, just some foundation skills for our teachers in AI, and to get them to start to think about how we can use it, not only in education, but specifically in SSPs relating to our programming, our adjustments, our differentiation, our scope and sequences. So it was really great to kind of drive that in the beginning and get the ball rolling for all of our teachers. And just so that they can understand that AI is not a scary thing, it's something that can benefit them, it's very efficient, and that going forward, it really can change our practice in terms of what we're doing in education. So I think, that was probably the first thing, is kind of leading with that influence and getting the ball rolling. But also, for me, in terms of leadership, there's so many things that I use it for, whether it be kind of, drafting some letters, or using it for the newsletter, using it to write articles, even, possibly using it for risk assessments. And most importantly, recently with the exec team, I've been working on using AI for our annual reflection in our school excellence plan. So that was fantastic. And, guiding all of the exec team in using AI to write their annual reflection was fantastic. And they were all so happy that we were able to do that. The department actually had endorsed and said, yes, you can use this for the annual reflection. And it just saved us all so much time. And also I've been speaking to a few other principals who are doing their external validation, which is a submission that comes up every 4 years. And a lot of them are using AI to write their analysis in their external validation, and it's fantastic. I think it's really great.
Yeah, you've talked about the investment you made, and I love hearing about the partnership with the other schools too. Collaboration between schools is so valuable, and I just think we need more and more of that. But that's probably a conversation for another time. With the investment in that staff professional learning, what have you noticed at Sir Eric Woodward as a result of that?
Yes, I've noticed that, we had a whole range of different levels. So some teachers were coming as beginners, some had used it already a little bit, and other staff had already had a pretty good advanced level of using it. But I think it's just kind of getting them all on board, helping them to understand that yes, we can use it in our programming to link to syllabus outcomes or to link to literacy and numeracy indicators in the precursors, which is something that we use in the inclusive assessment program, using it to embed our learning intentions and success criteria, which is another fantastic way to use it, but also especially guiding the middle leaders also in how we can use AI, particularly when we're implementing explicit teaching and quality teaching. So getting all of those, prompts up and ready and things that we want to have as part of our explicit teaching. So that's been something that has really helped them. Another thing is also report writing. They've found it really beneficial for report writing, just to, whether they need to write it a bit more friendlier or warmly or things like that, or including some of those indicators or prompting that we need to include in reports. I've spoken to a few teachers also who have said that it's been really helpful since the professional learning to know that you can actually build folders for each of the students in the class. And once you feed more information about that student, if you need to say, write a support letter for the student, it will bring up all of that information. Or if you need to write an individualized plan for the student, it will help with their goal setting. So that's been a positive impact, I think, that we've got out of the professional learning. But it's been wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. And you have confidence too, Caroline, that your staff are using it ethically. When we talk about student profiles, that they're de-identified profiles, that and that staff are completely aware of the risks and the appropriate ways of using their AI platforms.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you also covered it in your professional learning, didn't you, with us, that, it is important to de-identify all of the students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have you noticed then in terms of impact? What's been the benefits?
So I think the benefits overall have been that, it's more efficient for teachers. It provides that extra time. And as I mentioned before, it eases up some of the stress of the admin so that teachers and SLSOs have more time to work individually with students and be present and do all of those things that we love doing in the classroom, is teaching and learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you speak, your instructional leadership comes through in spades, and I would imagine it's assisting your teachers too in fine-tuning their instruction and really meeting the students' needs.
Yes, absolutely. And we've had some follow-up sessions. Some of our APs have also delivered a bit more, PL on AI, and how we can use it in various ways across the school. So that's been a great benefit.
Yeah. How fantastic that you have that skill and capability within your leadership team to continue that journey.
Yes, we're very fortunate. We have some amazing staff, and they're very proficient in technology.
Actually, this has just reminded me that I say all the time that this is a fast-moving space. The technology is developing quickly. What we talk about today might be outdated tomorrow. So the beauty of having your leadership team with that capability, and I would imagine a thirst for learning, and to keep abreast of what's going on, then that's supporting your broader teaching groups and your SLOs to stay up to date and to not, I think as leaders, we can make the mistake of thinking, oh, we've done that, tick, on to the next thing. But I don't think this is done.
Yes, yeah, I agree. I think it's so important to keep having those regular updates when you're monitoring and looking into things and tracking things and making sure that everything is how we want it to be in terms of school goals and planning and all of those strategic things that we want to focus on in the school, and making sure that everything's on track. And especially professional learning is our big ticket item.
Yeah. Have you
Mm.
noticed a culture too of shared learning? So, you know, teachers sharing with each other their successes and even their failures for that matter, like I did this and it didn't work. Is have you noticed that?
Yes, I think sharing is something that we are really trying to focus on at the school and develop more. We often have collaborative times and collaborative assessment times where all of our teachers and our SLSOs join together and we work on, collaborative assessment for literacy and numeracy, and everyone can contribute to those assessments of the students and where they're at. So that's very important, but also sharing, whether it's our stage or our key learning areas or our subject areas, um, also between our distance education teachers and our face-to-face. That has been something that we have been working on to share our programs or our particular things that the teachers are working on, and that has been very beneficial. Absolutely.
That duality of your school would make you very unique, I'd imagine.
Yes, yeah, it is. It is. But
Yeah.
very, very rich. We
Yeah.
love it.
So, Caroline, if a principal's listening in and feeling unsure about where to make a start, what would you suggest?
I would say, yes, I would say small steps. I would say maybe, as you asked me to, Trudy, start with your bio. Um, you know, feed it with some maybe information or things that might help and see what it comes up with for your bio. I would probably say also just start with something small. So, whether it's maybe a draft letter that you're putting together, perhaps if you have to write a response to something or submit something, I would say try once you've written it, put it in and give it a few prompts. It might be, could you write this letter a little bit more friendlier or a bit more empathetically or a bit more assertively, and see what it comes up with. And of course, understand that, you might need to obviously put your own little tweaks into it after you've read it. But I think, that would be a first little step that you could look at. And then the most important thing is communicating to the rest of the staff and making sure that they have a good understanding about AI as well.
Yeah, thank you. So, as we wrap up, firstly, if people want to hear more about your work or get in touch with you, where should they reach out, Caroline?
Absolutely. On our school website, there is the office contact email, so you can reach out to me there, and then I can get in contact with you from the school email. So not a problem. It's Sir Eric Woodward School, and we're in St Ives.
Thanks, Caroline. Now, I love to wrap up with my 3 ritual questions. Are you okay to answer them for me today too?
Sure.
Okay, so Caroline, what's the best kept secret about where you are?
Well, I would have to say, because I'm just so excited at the moment about AI, and especially for our setting in inclusive education, my colleagues and I have come across an AI that will support visuals, communication boards, response boards that normally teachers and SLSOs would spend hours and hours making and preparing. And often it's part of the SLSO's role description is to make these resources. And there is an AI that we've come across called Glint AI, and we're having some whole school professional learning on Friday about it. But you only need to put in a prompt. So it might be, please make a visual communication board for art therapy with 12 symbols. And it literally takes a couple of minutes and it will come up with a communication board with the visual symbols, all that you need. You can change the visuals if you want to replace them with something else. And it's just been the biggest game changer in terms of saving time, efficiency, so that those SLSOs can, have more time to be on class and work with the student to not only work on their communication, but we've noticed, a lot of communication is related to behaviours. So behaviours are decreased when there's better communication and access for the students to communicate anything that they might be frustrated about. And it's just, it's been fantastic that it's more time to be present and teaching on class.
Now, that is exciting. And I
It
think
is.
people listening in who, like you, work in schools or teachers who want to use those alternative communication systems would be fascinated to hear about this. So thank you for sharing it.
That's okay.
And particularly too, as you so beautifully articulated, behaviour is often what we see as a result of communication challenges. So if we can get the communication working better for students, we will see a reduction in behaviour. So thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, now,
okay.
What book or film would you recommend and why does it matter to you?
Oh, well, at the moment, I'm currently doing the Growing Great Leaders course, which is through the School Leadership Institute. And we're focusing on the classic text Student-Centered Leadership by Vivian Robinson. So I've been reading that at the moment. I haven't had any time at the moment to read any books that are just for pleasure. But it's been, yes, an educational leader classic. It's so valuable to refer back to this text because I think it just has all of the key things in leadership that we need to focus on. We've been looking closely at the moment at strategic resourcing, namely people and time.
Yes.
So reflecting on that just really highlights the real benefits of AI in a lot of these educational theories as well, people and time. So, yes, it kind of says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah. Now, has your copy of that book got lots of sticky notes hanging out of it?
It does, lots of highlighting and sticky notes and all sorts of things.
Don't you love it when you come across an education text that you can just keep going back to? Like,
yes,
you just keep dipping into because there's so much goodness in it. And yes, Vivian Robinson, one of the best.
Yes.
So
yes.
Thank you for sharing that.
That's okay. And as a more personable thing, I will add that recently I went to the Uncharted Territory exhibition at the New South Wales Art Gallery and loved that.
Okay. So if you're listening to this, immediately after it's released, head along to the gallery because it would have a limited time that it's on display. Am I right?
Yes, I believe so. I think it's around a month.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And finally, what's something that brings you comfort and joy at the end of a long week?
Well, just recently, my family have got a 10-week-old kitten. So we are just absolutely loving playing and caring and having lots of fun and enjoyment with this gorgeous kitten, just a tabby cat. And I just enjoy at the end of the day coming home, forgetting all about my job and role at work and just having games. And he's very playful and he loves to run around and he's got lots of different play toys. So it's very nice.
I love that. Animals do that for us, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I love animals.
Yeah, thank you. And I could see that would, not just at the end of the week, but probably the end of every workday. Am I right?
Yes.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Caroline. I said at the start I was looking forward to this conversation and hearing what's unfolded for you and the school. And there's so much great work to celebrate. So thank you for sharing it with me and for everyone listening in.
Thank you, Trudy. You're welcome. I've really enjoyed coming on and having a chat with you today.
Thank you. You've been listening to Trailblazing Schools with me, Trudy Graham. If this episode brought someone to mind, share it with them. You'll find further reflections, practical resources and leadership tools in the show notes. Until next time, lead with courage, seek clarity and keep trailblazing.